You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique. Hey, and welcome back to the Black to Business Podcast. It is your favorite host, Monique T. Marshall. And what I want to say, I appreciate you for tuning in and showing up for yourself and also for your business today. So this is another solo episode, so it's going to be just you and me. Now, this episode is dropping on Juneteenth, so I want to acknowledge that moment first. And Juneteenth is a reminder of hard-fought freedom. And while I think that it's often celebrated symbolically, the truth is we are still doing a lot of work of creating freedom in new ways, especially when it comes to economic freedom. So today we're asking a big question. And that question is, are you building a business that actually frees you? Or have you built a new version of a job that you can't stand? Because freedom is not just about making your own schedule or working from anywhere. Freedom is really about options. And the option to say no, the option to rest, the option to choose work that aligns with your values and your capacity. And so that's what we're unpacking today in this conversation. And we're doing it at a time where Black-led organizations, DEI programs, or even our right to exist fully and freely are being questioned. So this is not one of those feel-good episodes. This is really a call in to be more intentional about how you actually build. So let's get into it. Let's first start with this idea of freedom, because everybody says they want it. But have you ever really stopped and asked yourself what freedom means to you? And for some people, it's about quitting their job and being their own boss. And for others, it's about having the ability to travel wherever they want or choosing work that feels aligned with their purpose. And all of that is valid. But here's what I learned over the years. Freedom in business is really about having options. The option to rest without guilt, the option to say no without fear, the option to pivot or walk away when something isn't working, and also the option to spend time doing what lights you up, not just what pays the bills. And listen, I know that might sound idealistic, especially if you're in a season where you're just trying to keep your business afloat. But even in the building phase, we have the power to plant seeds of freedom in our day-to-day. Because if you don't build with the freedom in mind now, it won't magically show up later. And let me give you an example from my own life. One of the biggest ways I measure freedom today is something that might seem small to others, but it's really big for me, and that is reading for pleasure. So I've always been a big reader. Growing up, I used to win the accelerated reading competition. I felt like I was carrying my family on my back with those personal pan pieces from Pizza Hut. And it was a time, and I was doing that almost every year. So I was that kid. And books for me were an escape. It was my place of joy, my place of peace. But somewhere in the hustle of building a business, one day I looked up and I realized I hadn't read a single book for fun in what felt like forever. And I was so focused on the to-do list, the content calendar, emails, that I didn't even have space for something that once brought me so much life and joy. So recently, this year, I made a shift and I challenged myself to read a book a week. And so I'm on book number 5 now, well, actually 6. And it might not sound revolutionary, but to me, that's what I think about when I think about freedom. The ability to slow down, be present, and do something just because it brings me joy, not because it's always moving the business forward. And that's the kind of freedom I want more of. So I want to ask you right now and really sit with this and think about it. What would you be doing more of if your business gave you more breathing room? What's something that fills you up that's been pushed to the side? And what's one area where you wish you had more choice? Because freedom isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it looks like having lunch without rushing, or being able to pick up your child from school, or taking a Wednesday afternoon nap without beating yourself up about it. This is your business, and you get to define what success and freedom looks like for you. Now let's carry that into this next session where we'll talk about the signs that you might not be building the freedom you're actually seeking. So now that we've talked about what freedom can feel like, let's be honest about the signs that your business might not be creating the actual freedom, because sometimes what we've built isn't the liberation that we hope for. It's another form of burnout in disguise. So let me walk you through a few common signs. The first sign is you can't take a real break without feeling guilty or anxiety. So you're on vacation, but you're still checking your emails. Or maybe you take a Sunday off and by Monday, you're panicked about everything that you didn't get to do. And that's not freedom. That is fear disguised as productivity. Another one might be your business only works when you're working. If everything grinds to a halt the moment you unplug, that's a signal that you've built something that's fully dependent on you, and that is not sustainable. Another sign might be you're constantly busy, but not consistently profitable. So you're always doing something, but when you look at the numbers, the results don't match the energy that you're putting in. And so the gap between effort and return is a red flag. And another sign might be you say yes out of fear. So whether it's clients, collaboration, or content, if you're constantly saying yes to things that drain you because you're afraid the momentum will stop if you don't, that is not freedom either. That is survival mode. Now listen, if any of these stepped on your toes, I want you to take a deep breath and know that one, you are not alone. That's the reason why we're talking about this, because I see it all the time. I've been there. And I also want to let you know that you're not doing it wrong. These aren't signs of failure. They are signals. So they're letting you know it's time to pause, reassess, and then make some changes. And so let's talk about what to do with that awareness once you have it. And here's a simple but powerful exercise that you can start with. For 1 week, track everything you do in your business. Not just the client work or calls. Track the admin, the emails, the content creation, the scrolling, the mental to-do lists. Track everything. And at the end of the week, look at it and ask yourself 2 questions. 1, which of these activities are giving me more freedom? And then 2, which ones are locking me into something I don't actually want? And this reflection will show you where your time is creating expansion and where it's creating frustration. And you'll start to see what's truly moving the needle and what's just keeping you busy. And once you see that, you can start to shift it. So next, we're going to talk about exactly how to build more freedom in your business model, because awareness is step 1 and action is step 2. So let's get into how you can actually build freedom into a place where it's really ingrained in your business, and it's not just in theory, but it's in your systems, it's in your decision, and it's also in your structure. Because sometimes we think freedom is something we'll get to after we hit a certain revenue milestone or after we land a dream client. But real freedom comes from how you build from the start. So let's break down some ways to make it happen. 1, you want to simplify your offer. So if you're offering 5 different things to 5 different types of people, it's going to be really hard to streamline anything. A scattered offer list leads to scattered energy. So you want to ask yourself, what's one offer I enjoy delivering that people are already paying me for and that solves a real problem? And start there. Get known for one thing first, then build from that place of clarity. And when you simplify your offers, you free up time, you free up energy, and you also free up that mental space. And that is that real freedom. And the second thing you want to do is protect your time like a resource. So freedom isn't just about working less. It's about having the power to decide how you actually spend your time. And that starts with boundaries. So use a booking calendar so folks can't just grab your time, or block off non-negotiable rest days. And then another thing is you want to set communication expectations with clients. Now, this is a big one. And I want you to know that time boundaries aren't selfish. They're the foundation of sustainability. And another tip is build in that buffer time. So don't pack your schedule back to back. You want to give yourself space to think, to breathe, and also to be creative. And then the third thing is create simple systems to support you. So even if you're doing everything solo right now, you can still set up these systems that really lighten the load. So you want to start with a simple intake form for new clients, email templates for common responses, a weekly routine for batching content or admin tasks, And the goal in all of this, when you're simplified, is not perfection. It's to stop reinventing the wheel every single time. Now, I will say, if it's something that you do more than once, it needs a system. And then the fourth thing is you want to get comfortable with saying no. So this is a tough one for a lot of people, especially if you're just starting out and you want all the things. But you have to realize that saying yes to every opportunity, every client, every collaboration is really going to drain your focus and can actually pull you further away from the freedom that you are trying to build. So you want to ask yourself, does this align with the kind of business and life I'm building? If not, it is okay to pass. And remember, every no is making space for a better aligned yes. So let's bring all of this together with a simple reflection that you can do quarterly. So ask yourself, what part of my business feels heavy or draining? What part feels easy, energizing, or joyful? And what's one thing I can let go of, automate, or delegate this month? And that's the work. Not flashy, but it's freeing. And I want to take a step back and really zoom out and connect this to something that's really bigger and why building in this way matters, especially right now. So as we're holding space for Juneteenth, I want us to remember this. Our ancestors fought for freedom in the most literal sense. So now it is up to us to expand what that freedom looks like in our generation. So we're still in a fight, not just for representation, but for ownership, for equity, for rest, for self-determination. And in this moment when Black institutions are being defunded and really questioned, building our own is not just strategy. It's really about survival. So entrepreneurship is not just about money. It's about reclaiming your right to choose, your right to move how you want, to build without asking for permission. So on this Juneteenth, ask yourself, what does it mean to honor the freedom they fought for? Not just with some hashtags or celebrations, but with the way I move the world. And then question, am I building something that sets the next generation up to start from my ceiling, not from the floor? And this work that you're doing, it truly matters. So let's carry that forward in how we build, how we rest, and how we take up space unapologetically. So let's bring this home. I think if you didn't know before, I want you to know now. Freedom is not something that you wait for. It's something that you create piece by piece, brick by brick, decision by decision. So you don't just wake up one day and you feel free. You build it, you protect it, you define it on your own terms. And what I want you to take away from today's episode is this. Freedom does not have to be loud. It can look like working fewer hours and not explaining why. It can look like walking away from projects that pay well but cost too much of your peace. It can look like finally making time to do the things that fill you up, like reading for joy again. So here's your challenge for this week. Take one small step toward more freedom in your business. Maybe that's setting a boundary. Maybe that's revisiting your offer. Maybe it's just giving yourself permission to unplug without guilt. Whatever it is, I want you to honor it. And you don't owe the grind your joy. You don't owe the algorithm your every moment. You owe yourself a business that serves you, not just the other way around. And if this resonated with you, I want you to pass it on. Share it with another entrepreneur who needs this reminder that freedom is the goal, not just the hustle. So I will see you back here next week. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of the Black to Business family. And as always, keep building boldly and keep pushing the culture forward. Later.